So I'm still working on this tail wheel mount, and here is what I've been able to find out so far. I've got all the bulkheads in place with clecos, and none of these holes have been match drilled. These are just raw as stamped holes. I got the clecos in this bulkhead, got the clecos in this bulkhead, and I had this very end bulkhead in place with the clecos. And what happened was I had a gap between this bulkhead and the mount, but the gap was only at the top. It fit tight down here against the bulkhead, but as you came up to the top, a gap opened up. The other thing that I noticed was on this side, I'm going to switch hands here. Sorry. So on the back side of this bulkhead here, I noticed that there is a gap opening up between the bulkhead and the bottoms of these two brackets. I know this is dark. So there is a gap between this skin and underneath these brackets. Now, even when I put these bolts in with the mount and tighten them, it would not close this gap between this piece and this piece down here at these bottom areas, right where the bolts are. So I ended up making a template directly from my horizontal stabilizer. I used tracing paper and I put it on the horizontal stabilizer, and I marked the location of this center rivet. I know this is going to get very long-winded here. So here's my vertical stabilizer. Let me get the terminology right. So here's the vertical stabilizer. I made this template directly from it, noting the location of this rivet, which is this rivet here on the bracket. This is where you drill through for your mount. You drill through here and you drill through here to get your 3 hole locations. So now, using this exact template and using the instructions here, those instructions, they give you details here with a lot of measurements. Using that, I was able to figure out how to draw the necessary hole locations on the template. While the bulkhead was in place, I marked out the exact line where the mount fell, and then I was able to superimpose the two using this hole location as a reference, sort of like this. I know this is a mess, but I'm hoping you kind of get the idea where I'm coming from. So I was able to lay this on real time, kind of superimposing both the location of the vertical stabilizer against the actual location of the mount as it sits in the airplane right now. You can see through the tracing paper this area here. Now, again, using the dimensions from the plans, I figured out that I can take the mount and lower it about 3/16 of an inch on this end and still maintain good edge distance on the bolts on the mount itself. So knowing that I can drop the mount down and still maintain edge distance, what that does, if I take the mount and I pull it down on this side, it will close this gap problem that I have, and it also closes the gap problem on these brackets here that I was just talking about. So I think I'm going to do that. When I push down on this on this motor, or this tail mount, I don't know if that's showing up in camera, but it flexes the bottom of that bulkhead and it pulls these tight against the web in this area here. So by moving that tail wheel mount, it solves this problem. I don't know that it will eliminate it, but it helps close up the gap problem. And I've verified that I'll still have good edge distance on the mounts. I've got good edge distance on the vertical itself. So I think I'm going to do that. So that's kind of where I am. That's what I've been fooling with so far this morning. And we'll see how that works. All right, enough of that. Let me get at it. Howdy, everyone. So I'm doing another, what I call a catch-up video, basically just going over what I have been working on. So I've been spending a lot of time working on this tail section here, fitting this bulkhead, and the tail mount that sits between them. That's what I've been working on the last few days. It's been really tedious for me. The mount didn't fit that well between the two bulkheads, so I've been spending a lot of time getting the bulkheads to fit with the skins, because everything is pre-punched. And, well, not everything. For instance, on this back bulkhead here, it's two bulkheads back to back. So you have this bulkhead with its flange, and then on the other side you have another bulkhead with its flange, and they're riveted back to back. Only this front bulkhead is pre-punched on its flange. This bulkhead is not. The skin is, but the bulkhead flange itself is not. So, and it's the same with this one. This one is a double bulkhead back to back, but both flanges on this one are pre-punched. So it was a little difficult to get the holes on the front flange and the holes on the back flange lined up to play nice with the holes on the skin. And then on this one, you only have to worry about getting the front bulkhead flange lined up with the skin, and then you go ahead and drill through to make the holes on the back side. But getting all of these holes to line up and fit correctly, along with getting the tail wheel mount inside to fit correctly, that for me took quite a bit of effort and quite a bit of time. And you can see that I've got a shim on the mount itself back here. This is an 1/8 inch shim, but as you go from the top to the bottom, it tapers down almost to a point. And I made it the same shape as the tail wheel mount, so it's kind of a triangle shape to begin with. And then I had to figure out how to fixture that so I can shave it down from 1/8 inch down to basically nothing at the bottom. So, and then there was just a ton of going back and forth and fitting between putting the bulkheads in, putting the mount in, seeing what needed to be done, taking everything apart, making the change, come back, put it all back together, still not right, take it all back apart, make a change, bring it back. Like I said, I spent a few days getting this set up. Another problem is you have a flange back here, you have the flanges here, you have flanges here, you have flanges on this side, and you've got this bulkhead here with its flanges, and you're trying to adjust those flanges so that the skin will lay nice. As you come back here, if you don't have this flange bent correctly, you'll get a bump, or the the skin will either bow out or it will bow in as it comes across this flange, because when you cleco it, it tries to follow that angle. And if this flange, for instance, is bent out too much, as the skin comes back, it will kind of bow out here a little bit, and then as it comes across the bent flange, it will kind of suck in, and that gets really tedious when you've got a double row here and ultimately a double row here, and they're so close together to one another. When you take a straight edge and you lay it across the skin, kind of like you did with the flight surfaces, the control surfaces, you'll see where the skin deviates from that nice straight line. And back in here, I'll tell you what, it gets really messy and really challenging. On top of all that, you have to maintain clearances and edge distance in this area, because the vertical stabilizer comes down and it mounts to this, and the vertical stabilizer has its bottom hinge point, and you have to use 1/4-inch bolts through the vertical stabilizer, through those hinge brackets, through this bulkhead, and into the tail wheel mount here. Let me get my fat hand out of the way. Through the mount up here. And all of that, you need to maintain edge clearance. And you do all of that drilling after you have all this put together. So like I had shown in my other video, I had made a template, an exact template of the vertical stabilizer mount, and then transferred basically that onto here using this hole as a reference point. And working from that and on the mount and on this bulkhead with reference lines and trial and error, I was able to fit all this together. Made my clearances here on this bulkhead for the mounts, and as well as the cutout here for the mounts. Just getting everything fitted and aligned, and using a lot of Sharpie marker and a lot of reference points, making sure the skin lays nice. It was a challenge. I'm glad it's over. This area back here from a skin standpoint is still not that great. It's fine, it will work, it will fly, it will stay together. But it's just not a very nice straight run, if you will. There's still some waviness back here from the skin, from a skin standpoint. But there's really nothing else I can do about it. Like I said, everything is pre-punched back here for the most part. So once you have the holes lined up and you have everything clecoed together, there's really no adjustment. I mean, you really can't do anything with it. So you do what you can with what you have. The good thing about having everything pre-punched is that there's absolutely no issue with twist. I hung a plumb bob back here, and I hung a plumb bob way up there at the front. And again, everything is pre-punched, and it's really precise. And once you have everything clecoed together, there's even if there was twist, what can you do about it? Really? You'd have to jig the entire fuselage somehow to hold it against the twist, and then do all your match drilling and all your riveting and stuff while it's jigged and untwisted. But that just wasn't an issue. Vans has got their pre-punched stuff figured out to the point where it's almost plug and play. Okay, so that's where I am. So once I got done with the tail yesterday, I finished off the stringers on this end. Hello, camera. There we are. So I finished off the stringers on this forward side here. Cut them to the shape they needed to be so I can fit this forward bulkhead. And then I started to drill all of the stringers, which you can see here. They've all been drilled. So that's all done. I've got the front bulkhead in. So next up is to continue match drilling. Now the instructions say you're supposed to match drill up to the top stringer, which is this line here. So you match drill the top stringer and everything below it. So these bulkhead holes, these different bulkhead holes all the way around, and then all of these back here from the stringer line down, these all get match drilled. I'm going to start working on that now, and then I believe after that it's just a matter of disassembly, cleaning, deburring, dimpling, machine countersinking, whatever needs to be done to get ready for riveting. So, and again, I know this back here, you'll see when you get into it, this can be quite a challenge. If you guys want to see something in more detail, or if you want me to really go into detail and really elaborate on how I went from making that template from the vertical stabilizer to fitting it back here, figuring out the measurements, things like that, I can do that. I can make a video solely on this setup back here for the mount. But doing it that way, you can guarantee yourself when you start drilling through here blindly with the vertical stabilizer that you'll have all the edge distance that you need on the mount itself and on the vertical stabilizer hinge bracket. All right, this video alone is creeping up on 11 minutes, so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to do some more work on this, and I will talk to you soon.